Picture this. You're floating 250 miles above Earth, surrounded by the silent, unforgiving vacuum of space. The only thing separating you from oblivion is the thin metal shell of your spacecraft. Then, disaster strikes. That is exactly what happened to the crew of the International Space Station back in 2007. This is the story of one of the most daring and dangerous repairs in the history of spaceflight. The International Space Station, or ISS, is a marvel of engineering. It's a sprawling orbital laboratory the size of a football field, and it needs a massive amount of power to keep its lights on, its computers running, and its life support systems functioning. Where does all that power come from? The sun. The ISS is flanked by enormous solar arrays, golden wings that soak up solar energy and convert it into electricity. These aren't your rooftop solar panels. Each array wing is over 115 feet long and contains thousands of individual solar cells. They are absolutely critical to the station's survival. In the fall of 2007, the Space Shuttle Discovery arrived at the ISS on mission STS-121. Of its primary tasks was a major power grid upgrade. The plan was to install a new set of solar arrays, designated P6, and unfurl them to their full length. It was a complex but routine procedure, something NASA had done before. The crew, led by Commander Pamela Melroy, was experienced and ready. The mission was going smoothly. They had already relocated the massive P6 truss, a 17-ton piece of hardware, to its final position on the port side of the station. On October 30th, it was time for the main event, deploying the P6 solar arrays. It's the first array to be unfurled perfectly, stretching out like a giant golden accordion in the sunlight. Everything was going according to plan. Then, they started deploying the second array for B. From the windows of the station and the shuttle, the astronauts watched as the panel began to extend. One bay, then another, then another. It was a slow, deliberate process, controlled by motors on the ground and monitored by the crew. And that's when they saw it. About 2/3 of the way through the deployment, something was wrong. Very wrong. A section of the array had snagged. As the motors continued to push, the delicate panel, only a few thousandths of an inch thick, began to tear. A huge, ugly gash appeared, growing with every inch the array extended. On the ground in Houston, Mission Control was in shock. They immediately ordered the crew to stop the deployment. Everyone held their breath. A torn solar array was a serious problem. A fully deployed but damaged array could become unstable, creating dangerous vibrations that could shake the entire station apart. But leaving it partially deployed was even worse. It was blocking the rotation of another set of solar panels, starving the station of power. And they couldn't just retract it. The guide wires designed to keep the panels aligned were now snarled in the tier, preventing it from folding back up. They were stuck. To make matters even more intense, the tier was live. The solar panels were generating 120 volts of direct current, enough to cause a fatal shock to any astronaut who touched it. Back in Houston, engineers scrambled. They had a crisis on their hands. The shuttle was scheduled to undock in just a few days. If they couldn't solve this problem, they would have to leave the station in a crippled, low-power state, jeopardizing years of work and billions of dollars of investment. The mission's lead spacewalk officer, a determined astronaut named Scott Parazynski, was on the case. He had trained for years for moments like this. The team came up with a plan. It was audacious, risky, and had never been attempted before. Parazynski would have to perform a spacewalk, go out to the very tip of the station's robotic arm, and try to repair the live solar array by hand. This was no ordinary spacewalk. He would be further from the safety of the airlock than any astronaut had ever been on the station, and he would be working next to a high-voltage power source. One wrong move, one slip of a tool, and the result could be catastrophic. To prepare, the team on the ground worked around the clock, simulating the repair in their giant swimming pool, the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory. They needed to invent new tools on the fly. Engineers wrapped a standard pair of pliers and a hockey stick-shaped tool in highly insulating tape. They called these custom tools cufflinks. The idea was that Parazynski could use them to stitch the torn sections of the solar panel together, releasing the tension and allowing the rest of the array to deploy safely. On November 3rd, the day of the spacewalk arrived. The mood was tense. Scott Parazynski and fellow astronaut Doug Wheelock suited up and ventured out into the void. Wheelock positioned himself at the base of the solar array to provide a crucial viewpoint, while Parazynski climbed onto the end of the Canadarm2, the station's 58-foot robotic arm. Inside the station, astronaut Stephanie Wilson was at the controls of the arm, tasked with flying Parazynski through a jungle of energized equipment to the site of the damage. The journey was painstaking. Wilson delicately maneuvered the arm, inch by inch, extending Parazynski out over 90 feet from the station's core. He was a tiny white figure against the vast blackness of space, with the brilliant blue Earth spinning below. He was completely reliant on his crewmates. As he got closer to the damaged array, the danger became palpable. "Keep an eye on me," Parazynski radioed. "You see any sparks, let me know." He reached the tier. It was even bigger than it looked on camera. He carefully anchored himself and got to work. Using his custom-made insulated tools, he began the delicate surgery. It was like trying to perform needlepoint while wearing bulky oven mitts. He had to carefully thread the cufflinks. Threw grommets on the panel to bridge the tear and take the load off the damaged section. Communication was key. Wheelock called out distances. "Okay, you're about 6 inches away from that frayed wire, 3 inches. Inside the station and on the ground, everyone watched, their hearts in their throats." Ow. Parazynski placed the first cufflink, then the second. Slowly, carefully, he installed 5 of them, essentially creating a splint for the broken solar wing. After each one was in place, the team in Houston would command the array to extend just a little bit more, watching to see if the fix was holding. It was working. The tension was easing. Finally, after hours of incredibly precise work, all 5 cufflinks were secure. The team gave the command for the final deployment. The motors whirred to life, and the last few bays of the solar array smoothly extended to their full length. A wave of relief and triumph washed over the crew in mission control. Against all odds, they had done it. Parazynski, floating at the end of the robotic arm, had a front row seat to the beautiful, fully unfurled golden wing. I had just pulled off one of the most incredible feats of in-space repair ever attempted. His spacewalk lasted 7 hours and 19 minutes. It was a masterclass in teamwork, ingenuity, and sheer courage. The crew of STS-2120 not only saved the mission, but also secured the future of the International Space Station. The solar array they fixed that day is still up there. It's generating power and enabling the groundbreaking science that happens on the station every single day. It stands as a silent testament to what humans can achieve when they work together to solve the impossible. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story of space exploration as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of human ingenuity. See you next time.